Hi, my name is Robin Wong. I'm a photographer based in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. I have with me the Brightin Star 50mm F0.95 lens and the OM System OM-3 camera. We're gonna do some awesome portraits shooting with this combination. Let's do this! Before we start, here are some important disclaimers. I have no connection or affiliation with Brightin Star and OM Digital Solutions. Brightin Star sent me the 50 F0.95 lens, and I do get to keep the lens after making this video. However, I made it very clear to Brightin Star from the start that they have no control whatsoever on what I want to say in this video. This camera, the OM System OM-3, is on loan from OM System Malaysia, and I have to return this camera to them after making my content. This is not a review of this camera or this lens. I'm merely sharing my experience using this combination shooting portraits in real life situations. Before we talk further, let's take a look at some photographs from this combo. I know some people will say, but Robin, you mentioned that no autofocus, no go for Robin. So why this Brightin Star 50 F0.95, which is clearly a manual focusing lens? Well, we don't have any lenses with autofocus having the bright aperture of f0.95 yet for Micro Four Thirds system. That's why I'm very curious on what this lens can do, especially for portrait photography. I really love the design look of this Brightin Star 50 f0.95 lens. The version I have here is in all black. It looks really sleek and it matches the design of this OM-3 camera very well. Considering the fact that it has insane bright aperture f0.95, the lens is actually quite small in size. It weighs only about 443 grams. That's quite manageable. It balances very well on this OM-3 camera. I have no issues with handling whatsoever. The lens is made of full metal construction. It feels very solid in hand. There are no creaky parts. It doesn't feel like a cheap lens at all, although it is a cheap lens. And there are two controls on the lens itself. The manual focusing ring, which is very smooth and easy to operate, and the aperture ring, which is clicked. It gives you tactile feedback as you change the F numbers. You know how much value you are changing without having to pull your eye away from the viewfinder. Overall, the shooting experience with this Brightin Star 50 F0.95 is quite positive. There's not much issues that I've encountered. Let's take a look at more photographs. Let's talk about my experience shooting with manual focus on this OM-3 camera. I did not use focus peaking. Based on my experience, I find that focus peaking is not 100% accurate. It gives you very close to the area in focus, but it's never 100% critically in focus. That's why I choose to use the magnify function. I assign one of the buttons for shortcut to magnify, and I'll place the focusing box to the eye of the people that I'm shooting, and I'll magnify and make sure my manual focusing is 100% pinpoint accurate. Using this magnify function, I managed to get about 90% hit rate, which is actually very high considering it is not easy shooting with this Brightin Star 50 f0.95 lens that has razor thin, shallow depth of field. I was shooting about 50% on the LCD screen and another 50% on the electronic viewfinder. I interchange quite often, and based on my experience using this OM-3 shooting manual focus through the viewfinder and LCD screen, I thought it was quite positive. Yes, the electronic viewfinder, it does not have the highest resolution in the market, but it's still good enough for me to visibly see the area in focus clearly, especially after the magnify function. I have no issue nailing my shot. Same with the LCD screen. Overall, if you want to do some manual focusing work, I highly recommend that you use the magnify function on this OM-3. When it comes to lens optical construction, Brightin Star claims that they use 7 elements in 5 groups. They also claim to use some special glasses, namely 4 high reflective lenses and 2 low dispersion lenses. Looking at the images, I'm actually very impressed with what this lens can do. Shooting at bright open aperture f0.95, the lens is capable of rendering really sharp images, really good details, and very decent contrast. Perhaps this is not the sharpest Micro Four Thirds lens out there, but at f0.95, looking at the level of sharpness this lens can deliver, it is actually really impressive. Of course, why we get this lens is because of the f0.95 aperture, which means we want the bokeh. Looking at the out of focus area rendering of this lens, it can render really smooth, creamy, shallow depth of field effect. It is usually non-distracting, and overall it looks really natural and beautiful. Yes, this lens does beautiful bokeh. However, the lens is not perfect, of course. If you're shooting against high contrast areas, you will see very strong traces of chromatic aberration. Purple fringing can be a big issue. I don't think you can easily correct these purple fringing problems in post-processing. So you gotta be very aware. If you don't want purple fringing, then you will have to stop down the aperture to maybe f4, f5.6. That's actually counterproductive of why you are using this lens in the first place. Or you're gonna be spending a lot of time correcting them in post-processing. Also, if you're shooting against backlit or if there's any light coming from behind your subject, you will encounter some haze situation, some flare problem. Your images will lose contrast very quickly. In turn, you also lose a little bit of fine details and sharpness. So it is best to avoid any backlit situation at all if you're shooting with this 50 f0.95 for the best possible results. Anyways, this is a cheap lens. I don't expect it to be perfect. And I did not test like, oh, f0.95 versus f1.4, f2.8, f4. This is not a full review. I just want to use the lens to shoot portraits. And the reason why we want to use an f0.95 lens is to shoot mostly at f0.95. And overall, it does deliver great results. Overall, I've enjoyed shooting with this Brightin Star 50 F0.95 on the OM System OM-3 for the portrait session, and special thanks to the beautiful model Lily for making the portrait shoot happen. I cannot wait to work with Lily again in future projects. Who is this Brightin Star 50 F0.95 for? Well, this lens, retailing at $219 US, it is a no-brainer. If you want the most blurriest, shallowest depth of field effect in your background, if you want to isolate your subject, if you want that bokeh, then this is perhaps one of the lenses you should consider without breaking the bank. Of course, it comes with some compromises. You need to do some manual focusing work, and you need to deal with some flaws like purple fringing or shooting against backlight situations with the haze. But those are non-deal breakers, I think, and overall you can still get really impressive results even shooting a bright open aperture f/0.95. If you found my sharing beneficial, if you've enjoyed looking at my many sample photographs, please consider buying me a cup of coffee, or you can contribute directly to my PayPal, or you can join as a member on this channel. Any support, any contribution will go a long way, will ensure that I continue to share as much as I can and make new content on this channel. Until the next one, please go out and take more photographs. Bye-bye.